people have a perception, I've encountered this a few times, that maybe I just care more about old games. I don't actually think it's true. I care a lot about context and history and how things lead into other things. I like the stories of things, and I like to go back to the beginning to build through kind of up to where we are. I want to watch the evolution. And if my starting point were today, it would be sort of like watching a movie when I was 40 years old for the first time and having no context for what movies are, what the story of this particular movie is, what happens in motion pictures in general.
The context is important. That's what I always tell people, and that's why I love history, and that's why I love gaming history, is because it is relevant to me what happened with Tennis for Two. Where it's like, why wouldn't you want to save these things? And that's just the historian in me. That's just the person who I want to save everything. I think everything should be saved. It's equivalent of burning a book.
Yeah.
Okay. When you disassemble the very last arcade machine,
Yeah, you can play it on an emulator, but Sam's right. It's not the same. If you're not there on that beautiful Wells Gardner monitor with legitimate, tailored to the game arcade controls on a real board that's running sounds that are different through those speakers than the sounds you're going to hear through your PC when you play, it's a different game. Old screens were designed to display colors and textures and pixels in a way that we don't think about anymore. So different from what you experience on a contemporary television or monitor that unless you were there for it, you don't realize how different it was. But man, they looked a lot better on a CRT because they were designed for that and they were acceptable in that. And then you paste them onto some new kind of display. No wonder we're just, they're atrocious to the eyes. It's not what they were intended to be displayed on. And so a piece of the art is also lost. A piece of the experience is transformed.
The Navy taught me electronics. And then as time went on, after I was out, I started fixing TVs for a living, but jukeboxes always fascinated me, the old jukeboxes, you watch them work, like the Rube Goldberg kind of thing, pick out the record, play it and all. And so I kind of got into that on the side, figured out how they worked, started doing that, and from there just went on to, started with slot machines after that, and then on into pinballs. No, the pinball industry is almost gone. Yeah. Very few new machines being made. There was a time when you'd have maybe 6-8 companies making them, but it's all just kind of fallen off, Arcade games, there's still companies making them. The arcade industry's changed a lot. Now, a lot of what people are going for, like the game on the end, 60-in-1 board, a multi-game system. And you can have 1,000 games on a little circuit board instead of one game for the whole cabinet. For the most part, I don't really play the games hardly at all. I just fix them. When I must have been probably 5-6 years old, I went to a bar with my dad. It's back in Chicago, and we walked through the bar, and he goes into the back room, and the walls were lined with slot machines, and people were just dumping money into them. And I looked at that and thought, wow, this is cool. So I've always had kind of an attraction there, not wanting to play them, just the way they work. When you play Angry Birds on your phone, it started with this old electromechanical machine, or even before that with the old mechanical type units. '70s and '80s, they were really cranking out a lot of arcade games. Pinball machines were doing real well. First off, it's possible to sit and play this by yourself, but usually, they were in more social situations. They're in an arcade, they're in a bar, they're in some place like that with other people, you're there with friends, whatever. So now I'm here with a couple friends, we're playing a game of pinball, and I'm not just sitting down in a booth somewhere with my phone in my hand and pushing with the buttons or whatever. I'm standing at the machine and I'm shaking it, and you're more physically involved. Plus, it's more of a social thing because this is a big thing. It's not something you sit in the corner and do in the palm of your hand. You're sharing it with friends a lot of time. I think there'll always be a place for the arcade games, the older stuff. That's probably why a lot of people have them in their home. Your friends come over, it's something you do together, like when you play a game of pool with your buddies. You usually don't just sit by yourself, shoot pool. There's always going to be people who seem to enjoy the older, original stuff.